Welcome back, 921. A little bit of change. The Wedge. You know, what I think's really cool is just to see the spot develop, you know, the way it has. And Stephanie, you know, you're over here in this new role, and this is exciting for you. I know this is something that really just fits in your wheelhouse, and just seeing your love for the new position was really cool. And it's great to have you here in a new setting now.
Well, thanks. I'm thrilled. I'm excited. I've been on the team, 3.5 weeks maybe now. And I was just telling Scott last week and everybody that I've met that it really is like, it's perfect. It's like this was made for me.
100%. And you brought the boss in today.
I did.
I did. Scott, how are you doing?
I'm great. It's good to see you. Yeah.
Well, and, you know, thanks for coming in, because we were talking before we came on the air, you know, during the commercial break. And, you know, with all the, you know, developments that were at the Wedge, and, you know, I was able to take the tour when it was, you know, first opening up, and, you know, with the governor there and doing the press conference. But now to see kind of the wheels in motion, if you will, and really just to learn a little bit more about this is really exciting.
Yeah, you know, it's kind of a two-part thing. You know, first is this excitement about, you know, a beautiful collection of historic buildings that were being renovated. Since December of 22. I mean, so the town itself has been wondering what is going on in the Wedge, the Elfkin, you know, in these old buildings. But you know, so there is a little bit of a I'll call it the honeymoon period of this building, and it probably will continue for a while, because a lot of people are still trying to figure out, well, what does this look like now? And they all want to see it. And we encourage people, come over, come take a look, because you should be proud of these collection of old buildings that have been rejuvenated to be repurposed for something incredibly important for the city. But the second piece is kind of an education about, well, okay, what is the edge, or what is the Wedge now? What are we using it for? How can people best use it?
Well, and this is, you know, really where I find this fascinating, where this conversation could go, because there's so many different events that are coming down the pipeline in July, too, that really kind of establish what the Wedge is going to be known for. I mean, we'll talk about it, but even like legal support for small businesses, that's something that not a lot of people have insight on. It kind of is just, let's hope nothing bad happens, and when it does, we'll see what happens. And, you know, Scott, as a CEO, you know, how take me through this position that's a little bit different than maybe some of the past spots that you've been at.
Yeah. So my career, half of my life has been spent in the United States Air Force.
Oh, wow.
So, you know, I kind of treat this like a very famous Ted Lasso quote. You know, if, you know, you're riding a horse and you're comfortable, you're probably doing it wrong.
Right.
So, you know, this is very different for me. However, it is not so different in leading an organization. It's not so different in creating and building a team. It's not so different in being innovative in how you go about your strategy. And again, we're a for-profit organization, so we're trying to make money as well. But we're trying to make enough money so that we can, in a social business concept, which really means it's not to line our pockets. It's actually to give back in a way that's impactful to the region. So that brings a very unique strategy set. And for me, is my life flying airplanes and in the Air Force, very chaotic at times. I flourish in this environment. It doesn't scare me to have my schedule for the day and then it just blows up.
Right.
You know, so things will go off the rails in a good way.
Yeah.
We haven't really had anything.
Oh, no. I think I keep throwing things at you since I've been on the
It's more like people will drop in or, hey, we got a group that we want to bring in. Or so it's all good problem sets. But we're also trying to figure out, okay, how do we manage this 55,000 square foot facility?
I mean, this isn't a taco stand, you know, on the side of this. Is like you said, when you have historic buildings, with that comes, you know, the you know, maintenance and all of that stuff, but also just the intrigue from the public too. And I would only imagine like a controlled chaos is really, you know, something that all business owners are kind of used to, and what kind of makes the Wedge really unique too, because you have all these moving parts from creatives to full, you know, business, you know, corporate mindsets that are all a part of this, sharing the same space.
Yeah.
That's it.
Go ahead.
Oh, no, you go ahead.
The fun part of it is it's different every day.
Yeah.
And that's a little bit what entrepreneurial life is. Mm-hmm. I mean, so anybody who started a business or started an endeavor where they had a crazy idea and they're trying to make it reality, this is what that life is. However, you don't do it alone. That's what I like about a place like the Wedge is if you have an idea for a business and you're looking for that support, now you have a place with programming, with experts on site that you can come in and talk to and say, hey, can I get some legal advice or accounting advice or whatever specialty we're offering, there is going to be something for small business, because that's a key, I think, economic driver for this community. Is we got to help these folks develop their businesses so that they stay, they grow deep roots, and hopefully they grow. And now they're hiring others, So.
Well, and that's so cool, because how many times, and just in, Stephanie, with your other stuff, with the other group community organizations, you're a part of and have been a part of, you always run into those entrepreneurs that have this great idea, but, startup money's maybe a little bit tight, and it's hard to find the networking opportunities that are right there in your own backyard, and to have the space even. So to have all three of those, really strong components about this, it's really unique to the area.
Yeah.
Well, and now coming down the pipeline, I saw that you guys are going to have a really cool showcase and networking event kind of during the fireworks, a little bit before the fireworks start on the 3rd. Take me through this.
Well, I'm really excited about this. I know we're going to have at least 40 or 50 people on this rooftop.
Great.
We capped the registration at 100 because I don't think we can handle more than that. But, the rooftop space is beautiful. The partners we have at SIU are fantastic. People have the opportunity to come in and walk through with those partners, get kind of a rundown of what GeoMark is, learn more about GIS and how it's important, whether you realize it or not, to you, community collaboration labs, for data and storytelling and things that everybody can benefit from to learn more and then use that to boost their own efforts, and then stay for the fireworks because it's an awesome view.
Well, and now take me through the SIUE component of the Wedge. I think that's something that maybe the public has, just not, questions of, but just wants to learn more about. How did that collaboration, how does it work? And then what's that partnership look like?
Yeah, so it's basically an agreement between the Wedge and SIUE. We were looking for a strategic partner kind of anchor the Wedge. And when I think the original folks that were kind of conceptualizing what the Wedge is, and Alton Works team and the Rex Encore team, of what can this place be, this innovation district be known for, they thought about things like it could be a business accelerator or incubator for folks that are wanting to start new businesses. It could be attracting big business and technology to the area, which is something a little bit newer to this area. Not to say that there isn't. It's just we would love to have more,
right?
And so that we can grow the city and we can create jobs. A little bit of it was redevelopment. We don't want to see empty buildings. We don't want to see the lack of green spaces in a community. We want to have better access to the riverfront. We want to have more facilities that either get renovated or maybe they do get torn down because something else better is going in its place. So when you look at all these facets, you're thinking about the heartland, you're thinking about health and wellness, you're thinking about hunger, food insecurity, poverty, all these things. Well, a place like the Wedge, where it becomes this kind of a collaboration lab, is a great place to have these discussions and create this strategy for, well, how do we tackle all these really wicked problem sets?
Yeah.
And how do we collect the right people who are motivated to actually take action? That's what the Wedge has really become. So we are now in the process of, we're about 50%, I think.
Yeah. Just went over that last week. 50% occupied
as far as our office space.
Yeah. That's incredible.
Yeah. And you would think it's there's a tendency for some incubators to go into one industry, like they might be all lawyers or doctors or whatever. That's not what we want. We want diversity of businesses, because when you get those people in the building talking during lunchtime or after hours, we have had probably the funnest time with them on the fringes or these break times. We're like, hey, David, did you meet Sally today? She's working on something that's right in your alley, or you needed help on marketing. There happens to be a marketing company in the building. Why don't you go spend maybe 15, 20 minutes talking with them when they're on a break, or we'll introduce you, because that's what the community manager does. And we play this living LinkedIn and we connect these people. Next thing you know, they're helping each other. That's kind of the essence of what this place is designed to do.
Well, I really like that. And honestly, the partnerships and honestly just the relationships that are built there, especially at that type of level too, where you're not, going to the BNI and you're saying your 5 minutes, which you're fine to do. I'm not taking those away
and
from
we
people.
welcome those groups to come in too.
But
yeah.
this is such an organic way to do it, and really a way that you can truly have a relationship form, and those relationships, like you guys know, last decades and lifetimes truly between companies and businesses.
Yeah. Well, and SIUE's presence is a game changer. Again, because of this strategic partnership and an anchor tenant that we'll call it, you now bring capabilities that a lot of co-working spaces don't have. I know a bunch of folks around the country that own co-working spaces, and a handful of them have universities tied to them. I know one out in Idaho right now, very similar. They have an old building they renovated. They got some great retail space on the first floor, which is something that's coming. They've got all kinds of programs, but one of the coolest things they have is they're tied to the University of Idaho, and they have become kind of the center of the universe in the Pacific Northwest as the robotics center of excellence, if you will. So they are now bootstrapping businesses that are getting into robotics, whether it be flying, whether it be stuff that's on the ground, or whether it be in manufacturing. But because they know they have a university that can develop young men and women, or professors that understand this career field, and match them up with businesses, and now we're helping everybody. So SIUE is playing that same role. We're just trying to define what are the needs of the community and how best to utilize talents like geospatial and predictive analytics and sustainable communities experts, as well as the rest of their portfolio.
Right.
So we invite the rest of the SIU team here as well.
Well, and I think it's such a great point too, because you're only as good of a leader or good of a business than the people you surround yourself with, and to have passionate folks that truly are, passionate over, maybe it's robotics, but it's a little bit of a nuanced thing where it's a niche. When you have that one person that truly understands it, you get 5 of those on your team, life's looking pretty good fast, and you're able to really grow that way. That's interesting.
Yeah, I'm a fan of you stack the deck as best you can, especially if you're starting a new career, or you're trying to retool yourself and work on personal growth, or maybe it is starting a business. Yeah. You cannot go into these things alone because Google will only help you so much, right? So I've been there. I've started a business out of my spare bedroom, and I found myself wanting to be around people who understood how to set up an LLC. Yeah. Or, how do I do my marketing and branding, and do you know how to set up a website? Do you know somebody? So you, again, instead of having to search, now you have it local.
Right.
And there's people here who want to help.
Well, and what I think so cool is you could have some folks, too, that maybe have been in business for a couple of decades, and they just haven't really adapted to the newer technology because, the last couple of years have been kind of a whirlwind when it comes to how you can truly grow your business and SEO and, all that stuff is really important. But how do we do it? Is my logo infringing on someone else's copyright that I didn't know about? All those things that we would never think about are now getting brought into where, you can go and do those $5 Fridays if you've been in business for 30 years just to go and meet with some people and say, guys, I don't know where to start with this new internet thing. You know what I'm saying? Like, I hate to sound so kind of blunt about it, but I'm just thinking of some of the folks that are truly been in this town, for so long with those established brick and mortars or those established services that, maybe don't get that much attention to internet or that much attention to marketing or any of those really important factors.
Yeah, there's more people I've talked to, I would say, in the last week that just, Scott has said this over and over. You started in your basement or your garage, and that works for a little while, but then you're tired of looking at those walls, and, you're digging for plugs and extension cords and those kind of things, or the dog's barking, or the kids are, distracting you. Co-working is a concept that I think people really, who understand it, they really get it because they're frustrated with what they're dealing with. They're dealing with sensitive information. So going to a Starbucks or a Germania isn't possible because if my laptop is seen, I'm violating HIPAA laws. So, we've got spaces for that where you can keep that privacy and keep your information secure, not to mention the unfailable 10G broadband that's in the building, because I have never seen anything that's this good.
Yeah, it's going to be big.
So that's just awesome.
That's really cool.
I will say too, there are existing businesses out there who have employees who are remote. Yeah. And this is the other thing that it may sound like a pitch, but I want to be able to help those businesses because some of them, they do have employees at home. Those employees are actually suffering a little bit because I've talked to those employees. I've done executive coaching with those employees. There is a little bit of, I'll call it work depression, if you will, because you do not have those connections around you. However, maybe your situation prevents you from being at the actual headquarters building for Monday through Fridays. There might be certain things going on in your life. So there's great reasons why companies allow remote working. And it's not a new concept. This thing has been around. Remote working has been around since IBM started.
Right.
So matter of fact, they were one of the largest companies that almost 40% of their employees were remote workers back in the 60s and 70s and 80s.
Wow.
So
I
it's
didn't
not a
realize
COVID. So this isn't new. However, what I would say to those businesses out there, that have maybe remote employees out there, if you want to get them into a little bit more professional environment where we're paying for their internet, the food, or the plumbing, the electricity, they're in a professional environment now.
They can take a call in a Zoom room or a
We
conference.
can
Right.
remove the distractions for them. And oh, by the way, we can maybe provide them some personal growth. Why wouldn't you want to think about offering that option to the employee? And we've got a place where they can come to now and work professionally and get after what they're supposed to be doing.
That's 100%. I mean, really, and I want to keep that conversation going because it's such a fascinating one because to me, remote working, it seems like for everyone I talk to, it starts really great until maybe the rhythm starts to falter a little bit. And it's like, well, how do I get back on track? And so let's take a quick break. It's almost 9:40. We'll come back and talk about the upcoming events at the Wedge. There's some really cool stuff that we can all be a part of. We'll stay here. You'll stay there on RiverBender.com and Roku TV.
Throughout all life stages, you need someone in your corner, guiding you on your health and wellness journey. At OSF Healthcare, that's your primary care provider. Your OSF primary care provider is there for every stage of life. Find a provider today at osfhealthcare.org/primary.
Since 1993, Sparks Junk Removal is always adapting to the needs of our clients. That is why we now offer weekly trash pickup for selected areas. Plus, we offer driveway-safe rubber-tired dumpster rental. Give us a call today at 618-781-1407 or visit us at sparksjunkremoval.net.
When I got in the car accident at the ER, they gave me a prescription of hydrocodone. And over time, it took more medication to mask the pain. I moved over to drug seeking and found heroin and fentanyl. I went to the Centerstone rehab facility and it was the best decision I ever made in my life. I have my own car. I have a job. There's nothing holding me back anymore.
Attila Fest is coming to Alton Amphitheater on July 26th. Presented by D. Smith Promotions, hosted by Reason to Doubt Podcast. Don't miss your chance to see Big Boogie and Boozy Badass live on stage with special guests Dirty Muggs, Borderline, Marquise Knox, and NKG Band. For VIP and slots, call Queen at 314-967-8999. Attila Fest. Don't miss it.
You're listening to Our Daily Show with CJ Nasello on RiverBender.com.
You don't hear a lot of Meatloaf anymore,
Not on a Monday.
You know why not? Bad Outta Hell was a great album, Welcome back to Our Daily Show, 9:40, a little bit of change. We got Scott, Stephanie, and The Wedge. in the building. And, wanted to go back to this kind of remote conversation, because this is something I think so many people have, because, maybe their friends get the remote job and they're like, man, how great would that be to, log in today, you get to, maybe get some laundry done in the house during your break and all that. But it seems like who I've talked to, it's just like, everything's great until it really kind of isn't, where your rhythm gets thrown off a little bit by maybe it's a personal thing with like, family dynamic, or it's a professional thing where you just maybe lose some insight on what direction to take with your position. And when you see, someone coming in to utilize this remote space or utilize the Wedge, are you able to kind of see that kind of rewiring, if you will, of organization, number one, but really just direction on how to move forward?
Yeah, so for some of them, I mean, this is a very personal thing. It's a company decision, but it also becomes personal real quick.
Right.
And we did learn that in COVID. I mean, so many organizations, even at the Air Force Base, at Scott Air Force Base, when I was the commander of the base, we weren't in the office all the time. Like, if I could run a meeting out of our home where we could get the distancing that we required, or maybe people had stuff going on, we did. So we got really good at virtual meetings, even managing crises in a virtual fashion, instead of going to like the emergency operations center where we all have to get in a tiny room like this and we're all piled in there. And no, we can manage this remotely and actually be far more efficient. I think it only lasts so long, though.
Yeah.
And again, it'll last maybe a month for some people. It could last a year for others. And there's a debate whether you're more productive or not. I'm not going to get in that, because I think, again, it's very personal.
I completely agree with you.
And the individual knows if they're really productive.
Right. I mean, we all, that's an internal thing that we can say to our boss as much as we want. No, life's looking good, but we all go, I really could have gotten a couple of more proposals, or I could have gotten this done today. You know what I'm saying? 100%.
Yeah.
Well, take me through some of the folks you've met along the way, just in the Wedge, before we talk about some of these events. I'm sure there's all different types of, walks of life and all different types of interests and business backgrounds and acumen. Just take me through some of the folks that you both have been able to encounter along the way.
Well, the first one I got to talk about is Wood Lake Entertainment.
Yeah.
They were one of the first tenants beyond SIUE kind of moving into the building. They're a movie company with an Emmy-nominated employee that's
awesome.
here in Alton, and they are filming a horror film.
Oh,
here
wow.
in Alton. So they're almost done writing, and they're going to be moving on to
Haunted Town, great location for a horror.
I'm already saying it.
And they'll be going into shooting this next year. So,
Wow.
I mean, that'll be happening here in Alton, which is really kind of cool.
Yeah.
And but then you have that far into the spectrum. We've got some construction consultants. We've got real estate professionals. Who are some of the new
Financial
ones?
planning.
Financial planning.
We've got a mental health therapist that's looking at a space this week. It's been all over the gamut, really.
Yeah, a couple in the geospatial world that have moved in as well. And then our youngest, Tyler, who's 24, he's building a TikTok business.
Wow.
And, he's brilliant. And he's got a 17-year-old with him, and they're jamming.
Yeah.
Every day they're jamming in their office, but they come out at lunch or they come out after hours, and they're talking to a couple of our coworkers who are in their 50s and 60s, and they're both learning from each other.
Right.
Talking about failure, what did they learn, or talking about new technologies or new ways to promote, or just random topics that might be of interest to either one of them. So that's the kind of thing that you don't see. We're not a library, so we're not going to be shushing people. So we're not a coffee shop, although we get great coffee from.
We do have the coffee that's wonderful.
Oh, wow.
David comes over and fills us up. So we do offer that on site, but we kind of blend all of that together where we're trying to make sure you've got resources. However, we're also letting the community in the door.
Right.
We have a lot of nonprofits that have already utilized conference room spaces. I mean, we had the Rotary Club for the National Prayer event in the original bank meeting on, I think it was like a Friday. We had about 50 to 60 people in the building for that. The Leadership Council of Southwestern Illinois just did a kind of called an education session about data centers and artificial intelligence and why that's such a hot development thing right now.
Now, is Maine still a part of the Wedge that is Midwest AI Network that I was talking with Emily about? Is that still?
So originally it was just, it's been conceptual to this point, you know, as we've kind of explored really what Maine is. And the problem, I'll be very honest, the problem with the acronym Maine right now, it's something that's used by a lot of different universities and entities.
Gotcha.
So we've kind of pulled back a little bit from that and said, not that we don't want to get into AI. Matter of fact, we're looking at creating an AI course where it can help your small business with different facets of systems. And we use AI to do some of our marketing and content creation as well. What we want to look into is, okay, let's start asking the very first question. What do we want it to do and for whom and for what reason?
Right.
So let's get the end state right.
Right.
And then let's build on that instead of, I think, just kind of coming up with this grand concept and really not understanding where we're going with it. So it's not dead. It may come back in just a different name, in a different form, but we want to get a little bit more focused on maybe it's AI for a community revitalization.
Right.
Like, that's something I don't know a lot of organizations are doing right now. If I can figure out a way to make the line at the DMV a little bit faster and more efficient, maybe that's a good thing for AI to figure out.
Definitely get people on your team, right?
Yeah.
Well, and I think that's just really interesting too. And you know, it's great to hear. You know, we aren't hitting the gas pedal just on every idea. It's really about refining and focusing on what better serves the Wedge, its partners, and the community at whole. I think that's great for the public to know about.
Yeah.
I think that's one great thing about Scott's leadership is it's thoughtful.
Yeah.
You know, that we're not just going to have an idea and say, this is what the community should be.
It's better than me, Scott. I would have thrown it at the wall, and if it's stuck, you know, we're good.
Look, I ain't gonna lie. There is some spaghetti on the wall, but you have to. I mean, in this environment, you got to throw something up there just to start. Figure out what sticks a little bit, and then you got to start getting intentional. But I think the real place you got to start is listening. You have to actively listen to the city, the community. Now, I will say, because we're all victims of this from time to time. Sometimes we don't know what we really need. Meaning, we didn't know we needed smartphones until a guy like Steve Jobs first pulled this out of his pocket and said, it's a music thing, it's the internet, it's a phone, and he started going through it. Next thing you know, we can't live without these. It's become almost like your child. You know,
it's an extension of you.
You're looking for it, right? I'm not saying we're going to reinvent something like on the level of an iPhone, but I think when we look at community, when we look at programs and ways that we can help the community, I think we got to be very intentional, but we really have to listen a little bit more than we just go do. But eventually we do have to get after action, because there's one thing I've learned in the Air Force is I hate sitting around talking about problems.
Right.
So we want to move out. We want to go after it. Let's figure out a way through it. And you know what? If we're going to fail, we fail big, because you learn big.
Right.
So you don't get hurt, but you fail big enough to learn, readjust, ideate a little bit more, and then go after it again. These are tough problems that we're talking about in the community, whether it's poverty, food insecurity, housing, health and wellness. I mean, these are some of the biggest problem sets right now that everybody's looking for answers for. So we want to help with that.
Well, and I think too, a lot of success and a lot of, you know, folks that are starting businesses and you know, have this idea, the entrepreneurial background, or maybe they're just, you know, working, you know, for 10 years at the same, you know, company, trying to progress it and move it forward. There's always that group of people that I don't want to say wants things to not succeed, but it's got to be their way or the highway. And I think that with the Wedge, and I think what's so important about the conversation about the Wedge is that I think you're getting the public to think about, number one, business in a different way, but also community collaboration in a different way. And I think it's great for the public to be challenged on that a little bit too, to say, you know, what really is that belief of mine? What would I like to see the community thrive with? And if you can't answer any of those questions, do you really want to see the community thrive? And I think that that's, or grow in any type of way. And I think that that's such an important point for what you all do, because I mean, you're bringing up, food insecurity and poverty and all of these, maybe it's internet, access or any of these important spokes on the wheel. It's, it's great for the public to go, well, why don't I want that? Why would I not want to support that? If everything is 2 and 2 and 4, in this scenario, well, then what's bad about it? You know what I'm saying? Yeah. I think that's such an important notion. And when you guys are doing things like these collaborations where you're having like data and storytelling, which I'm wanting to talk about here in a second, but I want to go back to this where it's legal support for small businesses on Monday, July the 14th. This to me is what I think is so cool because, we have seminars and we have networking opportunities, but really to have an hour and a half of true learning and really growth, especially in things that, are kind of confusing when it comes to legal support and just, how do I get the LLC or how do I, market my, how do I protect myself effectively? It really does help people that maybe have been in business for a couple of years and never thought about it.
Yeah.
Take me through this one. What are we going to learn?
Well, I think free legal advice is something that is valuable to just about anybody.
It won't be from me. I won't be the guy there.
But I think the cool thing about these labs and these collaboration settings for all of these seminar situations are that, you can get a smaller group of people in a room with an expert who you can ask direct questions to. Yeah. And maybe someone else asks a question that you didn't think of and you hear that answer and that becomes valuable and it gets you thinking differently. Mm-hmm. So I think that's really an asset that people can utilize and really take advantage of, and it will benefit them. That's just, the obvious thing. I'm a community person. I come from nonprofit spaces. Workforce development is important to me, economic development. So I think this just speaks to, it's one way that we can really offer something in a beautiful space, let me mention, because I'm telling you, until you get in there, you do not understand the love that went into making this what it is amazing. So, I know that I don't think as creatively sitting on, as much as I love to sit on my back deck with my laptop and do some things sometimes. The dogs are barking, the neighbors are mowing their grass. I came from a work from home situation. Mm-hmm. I worked from home quite often. And I, at first, was a little hesitant. Am I going to want to go to the office every day again? Yeah. But I love coming to work. I love the people I get to talk to. I love these programs and being able to talk about them and growing that community. I think that's, the more people come in for these types of things, the more they're going to start to really see what value the Wedge can really add.
Well, and honestly, it's just the attitude shift, and really looking at things in a different light that, let's try it and see what happens, and I think that's such a great mindset to have also. And I wanted to get it because we're running out of time. On July the 16th, there's another community collaboration lab. What's this data and storytelling? This is really fascinating to me.
So this series that Dr. Connie Spurlock has started with her graduate assistants as well and her students, They pick a topic every month. Okay. So like the first month, they brought in just a set of data that they had on Alton that one of the students had put together. Everything from, well, how many males and females are in Alton? Just starting with basic and then going through some different community data sets. And they basically just put it in front of us and said, look at this. What are your thoughts? What do you think about when you see this data? And I thought, what a wonderful exercise, because we all infer different things about the data we see, right? The whole point was to have a discourse, not a disagreement, not a debate, a discourse. The difference is in a discourse, we are all listening to each other, but we're respecting what we think we see in the data. And then we started talking about all kinds of different ways that maybe we could tackle some things. This one, I do believe, is they're going to dive deeper into data, but how to use data to actually tell a story, which might be a little bit more impactful or evoke emotion for maybe wanting to get you involved. Yeah. Maybe wanting you to pick up that leadership role and say, I'll go do that and I'll help build a team. Or maybe just being part of it. But a lot of times we throw data out in numbers, but there's no real context behind it. Yeah. How did we get here? Yeah. And what do we think are some potential courses of action that we could take? They're not all going to be right. They're not all going to be easy. We may be choosing the best, worst decision in order to move forward. That's a tough thing to do because a lot of these problem sets are humanistic. Mm-hmm. They're complex. And so it gets emotional, it gets personal. But you just said it, in a place like the Wedge, we're kind of wired for connection. We want to just get you together so we can have this discussion and discourse in a comfortable space, not at City Hall.
Right.
You know?
Right.
And I don't have any...
No, you're right.
No
I get what you're
disrespect
saying.
to that.
Yeah.
But it's people that can get together without anybody kind of decision-making at
Yeah.
the top. Let's just come up with an idea. But once we have it, maybe that's what we take to City Council. Because we have a better story. We have a better shot of maybe now pushing this initiative across the finish line. Sometimes we lose on those things when we don't tell a good story.
That's really interesting. Well, and honestly, I think sometimes, maybe not for every business, but from my understanding, just, there's always a solution or always something to be the answer for. We could be the solution for something, whether or not it's financial planning or, real estate or, networking or making your own TikTok channel. What are you trying to be the solution for? Yeah. And I think you hit on it so importantly, because sometimes we see numbers for the first time, especially if we're new to business. We're like, man, look at this, this is great. But there's no context behind it. We don't really understand what the data truly means. We just see numbers in front of us, and we don't understand as young entrepreneurs or new entrepreneurs, what are we trying to solve? We're just seeing all these different, Alton's 48% female, or I don't know what the number is, but it's the fact
that
of
actually might be pretty close.
It's close. We were just talking about that. It's like 60, I think, but
dang it. I am not going to the boat today, Stephanie. That wasn't close. But I just think it's fascinating though, because you're learning it, and it's truly understanding what that means. It's not just looking at your Facebook analytics and going, well, look at this, we're pulling about equal. Well, is that really what you need for your solution? Are you truly helping anybody with what you're targeting right now, or how can you refocus? I think that's all really important stuff.
Well, yeah, and I think with that, to that point, it's like the data doesn't tell the story like the people do.
Right.
And if you can use that number that's on this piece of paper that's arbitrary to anyone who doesn't understand it, you make it personal to what is actually going on in their lives, give them some control over the narrative. Connie put it in, making invisible voices visible. And I think that data has the power to do that if it's used in the right way. But, a lot of times we just plug something into AI and think that's going to be it. And it's like, no, wait, hold on, back up. Maybe there's a different way to talk about this.
And we carry our own biases into these things.
Right.
Like our own worldviews of what might be what we consider, let's just start with right or wrong, but it might be broader than that. But we do carry in something. So to be able to listen to somebody else's inference on that data is really important. We've had tough things either go through in this town or not go through. The last one was the mixed housing.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
There are all kinds of feelings about that. And,
sure.
I don't want to get into that discourse here, but there are some things in the story that I don't think were adequately told. That's my personal opinion.
Right.
That's nobody else's opinion. I just remember what it was like as a young lieutenant. I can't afford a house. I'm barely making enough. I was making $400 every 2 weeks as a brand new lieutenant in the Air Force. I could afford a 2-bedroom apartment that was not very good, $250 a month in Knob Noster, Missouri, right near the base. I can't buy a house, and I know that there's people in the community that are like, we need people to buy homes. I'm like, I do too. I would love that, but I can't afford that as a lieutenant. I didn't buy my first home until 8 years into the Air Force.
Right.
But that starter apartment helped me leapfrog to that home. And that's why I think sometimes hearing some of these stories will get people to say, and stop for a moment and say, I didn't realize that there actually might be a good need. By the way, it gets us to maybe where I want to go, which is more home ownership in the city, which is also a wonderful thing.
Right. See, I've always said, Scott, those that don't listen have bias. If you truly aren't listening, then you're biased. It's one of those things where, I might not agree with, all of that, because with the mixed housing thing, I have some different thoughts on that, but It's okay, because that's what discourse is about. It's not, life isn't about you're right and I'm wrong and let's not talk to each other. It's how do we get to this understanding of how are we going to move forward?
Yeah.
And I think that so many times the public gets so used to the Facebook game or the social media game where you got to get the most likes on it. Hell, we put out my engagement article and someone gave me 10 to 15 years, it's like, and someone else said, why the hell should I care? Which is fine. But, you get into this kind of this whole like put your feet in the ground thing where you don't want to move, you don't want to bend, and that's just not how the world works. And I think that it's so important that that's what the Wedge truly showcases is discourse, how to have these tough conversations, because they are tough. They reshape a community, and it's really cool that you guys are bringing this all back in. And we just hit 10 o'clock here in downtown Alton. That's your top of the hour note. You're watching this on RiverBender, but the Wedge and SIU Partner Showcase and Networking event's going to be Thursday, if I do get paid to read correctly, July the 3rd, from 5:30 to 7:30 p.m. Now, this is monthly, correct, on the first Thursdays?
It is a monthly showcase. Little different programming. I think we may switch things up, but monthly everybody gets to come in and do this. The beauty of this time is that you get to stay for the fireworks.
Well, you happen to be on top of the roof. I mean, and looking really cool too.
Beautiful. It's such a beautiful community.
But it was a great experience last month. I mean, we had probably 45, I would say, ish people out that night, and it makes for a long day for Scott and I. but it was
when you
wonderful.
End it like that, I mean,
exactly.
Yeah, who's complaining at that point?
Exactly.
So.
How do you get tickets? How do we register?
You can register online. We have an Eventbrite set up, our social media or our website. Either one will get you to the registrations. We do ask that people register. While it is free, we still need to know how much food to bring and have for everybody. So I would encourage everybody to follow us on social media anyway. That's going to be a shameless plug. Because if you want to know what's going on at the Wedge, that's going to be a good source for that. I know you are just as well aware as I am that most people get their news from social media as opposed to
I don't know, places. Stephanie. We have a lot of people on RiverBender.
Well, and I keep coming here because you guys obviously have a following.
I'm just giving you. But you're right. It is social media, and it's so important too.
Well, your social media blows up. You know what I mean?
There's
a reason.
There's a lot of people that are paying attention to this.
It makes me humble though. I'm like, why do that many people care? In a good way, because it makes you feel good. But also, you're right. It's the new wave of doing things.
Well, they trust you, and this is a trusting place to be, and that's what I love about this.
Well, and I think the Wedge is too. I mean, it really is, because if you're hearing this for the last 40 minutes that we've been talking, I mean, I don't think that there's any way that you raise your hand to this and go, man, I still don't know. If you were ever I'm like, I just don't understand it, because everything's about building a partnership, whether it's with the community, it's with, the folks that are investing inside the Wedge with that office space, or, being a part of it, or just folks that are kind of just lingering and maybe just, a little bit more curious on how they can be a part of it. It's all beneficial, and I think it all helps the community going forward. So with that being said, what's your final thought just right now on the Wedge this summer going forward, and really just the next couple of months for the big, beautiful space?
We'd love to see more people.
Yeah.
That the challenge is always going to be filling up a space like this, because again, it's educating people on what co-working is and things like that. So we're going to continue the $5 Friday. So for less than a cup of coffee, I used to be able to say for, a cup of coffee used to be 99 cents.
You can't get a
less
cup
than that. But I would say for $5 to come into a building and be able to work all day, and you've got access to printers and fiber 1 gigabit up and down Wi-Fi and just great spaces. You can pick a different space every hour to work. I can't think of a better place to come to. We also reduced our rates for co-working memberships.
Oh, wow.
So much like a gym membership, you can sign up month to month, or you can sign up for a whole year. Those are now $200 a month for month to month. But if you sign up for a year contract, it's $175.
Oh, wow.
So that means we are paying your electric bill, your air conditioning bill, your Wi-Fi bill, your printers, all the paper you need. So we have that stuff there for you. And you actually get access from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. So you get a key fob to be able to get into all the doors at the Wedge and can work there, because we know entrepreneurs don't conveniently work from 9 to 5.
No, they don't. And that's 100% true.
Did I mention we have a gym and a rooftop?
Can we lump our mortgage payment into this too?
Hey, if we could put a pole in, I'd move into the building. I'll tell you.
Yeah.
It's been really great talking with you. I always tell
CJ.
people, of course, Stephanie, we'll talk for 20 minutes, but here we are almost an hour later learning more and more about this. One final question, because one did get sent to me. What is GIS, just so we can get that definition out there?
So it's involves geospatial and intelligence, anything informational spaces, anything involving big data.
Okay.
And SIUE produces about 80% of the geospatial specialists that actually end up at the National Geospatial Agency.
Oh, wow.
So the brand new building that's about to open in St. Louis, they produce a lot of them right out of the college. So anybody that's involved in big data, whether it's geology or geography or could be agribusiness, whatever it is, these are the folks that are flying around with drones measuring temperature within a half a degree of that field and that acreage that can tell you why that crop's not producing or producing a good yield for the year.
Whoa.
I mean, these people are amazing.
Yeah.
So
It's high level stuff for sure. It's
yeah.
That's why I just smile and nod.
They're telling me about all the mines underneath my house right now.
Oh,
You know,
yeah.
so,
you got to know it. If you don't know it, it can't.
Well, and that's really important. And honestly, guys, be a part of it the 3rd, be a part of it the 14th, and we'll link everything in a write-up on RiverBender.com a second time just to get more word out on this. Guys, thank you so much for stopping by.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
for having
Come
us.
see our smiling faces.
It's 10:05, a little bit of change. We'll take an extended break here, and we'll come back with Alt Music Exchange. I know we got Trine Canine Center coming on the show, and then Hainer Library in the 10 o'clock hour. You stay there. I'll stay here on RiverBender.com and Roku TV.